Welcome back, everybody. I'm just getting to know Sherry Riley, where she's from. She's from Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky. She ain't in Kentucky now, though. Welcome to the program, the one and only, this amazing author, Miss Sherry Riley. How you doing, Sherry?
I am good. I'm excited about our conversation.
Yes. You and I started the night hitting it off because you have a Magic Johnson jersey behind you. And when I was a kid, you couldn't tell me nothing about Magic Johnson. If you said something about my Magic, I'd have socked you in the
eye. The competition with him and Larry Bird, like I'm a sports fanatic. So from college to the pros, them two going head to head, and then the McDonald's commercial just tapped it all off.
Yes. When he pulls up in the car. Anyway, let's not. Okay. So listen, let me, because I want to get to the book. I want to talk about the book. But I have a method to my madness, and whenever an author comes on, they always want to rush to the book, and I always say, no, slow down, because I want people to know the author of the book, right? I want people to know who wrote this thing, and that helps people really tap into what you wrote. So let's get a sense of your mind, and let me ask you. How has 2020 changed you?
Whoa. The best thing about 2020, honestly, is that it has forced me to get focused. It forced me to get focused in a way that I've been wanting to do. But life moving, I just disregarded it. And so the best thing that's come out of it has been that intentional focus in every area of my life.
That's rich. Yeah, I can relate to that. I really can. I mean, 2020 has made all of us adjust, and it's made us assess, right?
Yes.
It's taught some of us how to grieve, and it's taught some of us how to be grateful. And one of the things, let me not go on the whole thing on this, but one of the things America has never learned is how to grieve. She avoids despair. She doesn't like to deal with sorrow. She goes shopping to avoid sorrow. But Black folks can teach America a little something about that.
Yes. Absolutely. And there's so much power in grieving. Because a lot
of times say more about that.
Oh, because we equate grieving to just death, life and death of a person. But the reality is we grieve by definition at the loss or change of anything. Mm-hmm. So it may be a job, it may be a change in a relationship, it may be a change in our own awareness of ourselves. And so when we don't give ourselves the proper time to grieve, we also eliminate the proper healing.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Like, Sherry, you done snuck up on something right there. That's good. That's what you mean by the power of it. Because grieving, healing is necessitated by a kind of losing and grieving. You can't get there. That's good. We can spend the whole show on that.
Yeah, you can't get to the healing unless you empower yourself to grieve. And grieving, there is power in it. We just look at it as a negative because we're afraid of the feeling. We're afraid of how far we'll go. But the reality is we minimize the healing. And that's where the real growth and power comes from.
That just got me. I remember my mentor, his wife had gotten killed and hit by a car, and she died, and he was in such despair, and remember one time I went over his house and he said to me, I said, "How you doing, Dr. Taylor?" He said, "I've been to the grave, but I've come back with power."
That part, yes.
What? Yes. I looked at him like, what? God. Anyway, because I'm telling you, I can stay there all night. That's how rich what you do. Is your book like this?
It's so funny because you said we're going to talk about the book later, but I actually deal with grieving in the book. Like I actually mentioned just that, the power in the grieving process. So I actually do, because the 8th principle, the courage to be faithful, is about healing, that we never get to true exponential living until we heal. So I actually do talk about it.
Look, well, the help of what I want to talk about. Let's get to that book, because that everything you just gave us is just rich and substantive and anointed and life-changing. I mean, you literally in the last 5 minutes have helped people understand what they've been doing in 2020. So let's get to the book, Exponential Living. Did I get it right?
Exponential living. Yes.
Yes. And now, out of all the things you might have called this, why that?
Well, I know you are a man of faith because I've heard that in so many different ways.
I'm
Honestly, God
saved, but
gave.
I'm not delivered. Keep going.
Yeah. Look, I tell people I am saved, but I am still God's still working on me.
Definitely.
Yes. But when I first started the journey, God gave me three things. He gave me the title, Exponential Living. He gave me the subtitle, Stop Spending 100% of your time and 10% of who you are. And he gave me what exponential living, what it stood for. But the funny thing is, the name Exponential Living, this was 20 years ago now. And so no one could pronounce it. Everyone said it was awful, awful, awful. You cannot use that name. My agent said, you've got to change the name. But I knew that's what God gave me. And I knew I had to really fight. I'll tell you a quick story. Literally up until the book was about to ship, my publisher was still saying I needed to change the name. And I was like, I'll fly to New York because the head of sales says she's got to change the name. We can't, it breaks all the rules. And that was on Friday. And I was flying to New York on Tuesday. My publisher called me on Monday and said, we're fine. We don't have to change the name. And I'm like, well, what happened over the weekend?
Right.
And they're like, our head of sales had the book sitting on his kitchen table. And his wife walked by, saw the book, picked it up and said, oh my God, that's the best title I've ever seen. And she's never paid attention to the books that he's had before. So when the head of sales wife said the title was good,
it's good.
We made it.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me see you a point and raise you a point. When God says it's good, come on.
Yes.
It's good.
It's good.
You didn't get that thing out of a bubblegum wrapper.
Not at all.
The creator told you this is what it's going to be. And what I love about you is this is something I'm working on. I had to go through this today. that when life told you something, when God the creator told you something, you stuck with it. You believed
Absolutely.
it. And that's
yes.
I'm tipping my hat to that because I think that's exponential living.
Yeah, that's it.
Don't play with me.
You got it. Yes.
I'm ready for you today. I'm
yes.
ready for you today.
Yes.
Listen, let me ask you this. Why did you write this book?
Oh my goodness. I wrote this book because I literally knew the hell that I had been through. And I wanted to share with others how to get through.
Talk about that for a second before you finish answer the question. Just descend into that for a moment. What do you mean by that?
Well, as we talked about, I'm from a very small town in Kentucky. And even at a young age, I knew I was going to live in Atlanta. I had never been and work in the entertainment industry. Well, at that time, and I'm going to date myself, there was no Google, there was no internet, there was no cell phone.
I remember too.
Right. I mean, the entertainment industry was basically Soul Train, right? Let's just be honest. That was it. And, but I took a whole lot of work, a whole lot of years, a whole lot of no's. And I eventually ended up as the head of marketing at LaFace Records, doing the marketing for Tony Braxton, TLC, Usher, Outkast. So here I am. I buy my mom a home by, my mid-20s. I've got the 6-figure income, traveling the world, unlimited expense account. And I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I love the people I worked with. I love the work that I did. And I was miserable. And I realized through this journey that I wasn't the only one. I was just the only one crazy enough to actually talk about it. And so the reason that I wrote the book is because I wanted others to have the tools on how not to burn out, how to understand the power of when your skill and talent take you to levels of success that your character can't sustain. Yes. I wanted others to understand the power of peace and clarity and courage so that we could enjoy all the amazing works of success that we put ourselves in a position to achieve. And so that's what drove me and still drives me.
I love that. I got to take a break, but what you just fed us is a truth that nobody wants to talk about, and that is sometimes you go to the darkness not to die, but you go to the darkness to model and to be exhibit A for people on what can happen for you and to you when you have the courage to go all the way there. And that's what you did. I mean, you said it so poignantly. You were being funny, but you were crazy enough to talk about it, right? But it's the talking about it that created this work. And it's the talking about it tonight that's given us these principles that I am absolutely impressed with. Your whole thing on grief, I'm done with. I should kick you off the show now.
5 minutes and I'm done, right?
That's good. Listen, I got more of Sherry Riley. You don't want to go nowhere. We'll be right back after the break. That's good. Welcome back, everybody. I'm talking to author and writer and thinker, quite frankly, philosopher. You know, I don't give that up easy because I'm one of those. Sherry Riley. Sherry, I've just enjoyed tremendously the richness of the conversation. It's not like that boring richness that's so academic and untenable. You're like, what the hell are they talking about? I mean, you've really been talking about life at another level. I know that your book is a book that takes us through. How many principles are in the book?
9.
The 9 principles. Okay.
9
Give
principles.
give me 2 principles out of the book that if I put it on me, that if I don't encounter nothing else for the rest of my days, these 2 principles I need to internalize and manifest right away.
Well, I'm gonna start with the first principle, which is live in your power. And it all starts with making a decision, right? So many of us, we do this. We capture everything in these 3 words. I don't know. And so we'll start with, you know what, I need to, and you'll say what you need to do. And then you'll go, and then you go, that, and you talk about all these things and you wrap it up with, I don't know. When the truth of the matter is we always know. Now, we may not be ready to deal with that reality. We may not be ready to make the changes that reality is going to require of us, but we always know. So the first step in exponential living, the first principle is living in your power, making decisions. The 5th principle is stop working, start maximizing. Stop working and start maximizing.
Yeah, say more about that.
Oh my gosh, that really is the fuel. And I'll kind of share it with a quick story. When I was working at LaFace Records, L.A. Reid was came by my office one day and he was literally standing in my door and I had my head down and I'm working. And when I finally looked up, he had been standing there for about a minute and he said, Sherry, you are a marketing genius. You're helping sell millions and millions of albums. He was like, but the biggest challenge you're going to have is your head is always down working. Now, when your boss is saying that's a challenge, I was like, I didn't get it. And it took about 10 years. But what he was saying is we get so busy that we forget to look up to actually capitalize and see the opportunities that are right there in front of us. We get so busy that we miss that it's not about being busy, it's about being productive. And so a lot of times we hear the idea of work smarter, not harder. And so the power in exponential living is when we understand how to really allocate our time in a way that we're leveraging our resources, we're leveraging our superpowers, we're leveraging who and what we are so that we are maximizing opportunities and not just working for the sake of working.
Yeah, I like that. I think so many people take pride and identity propositions out of just working. But what you're saying to us is that at the end of the day, if you're not productive, if you're not accomplishing anything, then what the hell are you doing? And I remember, I got to take a break, but I love how you just dropped L.A. Reid. Like, I was working, L.A. Reid. When we come back, we're gonna talk about Usher. He wrote the foreword to your book. I've not lived that kind of life. I don't know these people. You know these people. They walk down the hall. Who's next? Beyonce? Welcome back, everybody. We're talking to author Sherry Riley about exponential living. her book, The 9 Principles. She's already given us a couple of them, and it is worth getting. It's worth reading. I invite you to do it. You know, if I get excited about a book, and I'm a book snob, it's probably worth the trouble of getting. I mentioned we got the book up there. Good, keep it up there, because I mentioned that Usher Raymond wrote the foreword, right?
Yes.
Now, first of all, how do you get Usher to write the foreword?
You know what? When I started at LaFace, he had just turned 15. His voice had just changed. And, he tells the story, like his voice had changed. The label didn't know what to do with him. And he had this massive charisma, but he was still this kid. He was 15. And here I am, 8 years to get to this job, kid from the Midwest. I'm from Kentucky. And all I knew is he had a dream. I had a dream. And so our journey started with really me, him, and his mom leading the charge to really break him as an artist. But when I resigned from LaFace, I wouldn't work with Usher. And I started a consulting firm. I had a consulting firm for 17 years, but I wouldn't work with Usher. And he didn't understand it for years. Like, why wouldn't you work with me? But what I understood is that he needed my friendship more than he ever needed my marketing expertise. Because at this time, he was like 20, 21, 22. He was growing from boy to man. He was going from, great talent to global superstar. And there were points in his life, a lot of teen celebrities, when they make that transition to adulthood, there's a lot of decisions that they make that are very destructive. And so for me, being that one person in his life that didn't work with him, we really formed a bond of a brother and sister. We really formed a bond where I would say to him all the time, I'm more concerned with you, the man, than you, the brand. And so what I had been doing with him all these years was literally what the principles of my book was centered on. And so when I, shared with him that I was writing the book and asked him to write the foreword, because I wanted him to really capture what I had already been doing for, a couple of decades with him, he was like, absolutely. But he's still a brilliant, gifted talent. So he still set me down in his kitchen and was like, okay, what does this really mean? Like, I still need to know it for myself. And so the forward, he really tells a very engaging story of how he got to the place of, oh yeah, this is really who and what she is and what she's been doing for me. And she's captured in a book. So you got to get it.
Wow. That's a great, Dr. Sean loves the great story. And that was a great story. That was a great story. My goodness. That you had the wherewithal to know he needed a friend and not to treat him like an opportunity when you probably needed an opportunity.
I was launching my business. Absolutely.
Yeah, how hard that is.
Yes. Yeah.
That's like needing $100 and knowing that Warren Buffett is coming over.
Yeah.
I'm asking Warren for money.
but that really is the core of what I share is, those are the hard decisions that the value is more than financial. And I still launched a successful business. I still, built a viable business, still have it. But the value of our connection, our children, my daughter is a year older than his. So that we have stair steps. Mine's 13, his is 12, 11, and now the new baby girl. And so our families have grown up together. Him and I have grown up together. So the dynamic was richer than money I could have made working with him. And that's when you understand the value of exponential living. I'm still a capitalist. I still love money, but money's not everything. Yeah. Right.
The devil is a lie. I told my sons the other day, y'all can have all that socialism all you want. Right. Your daddy is a damn capitalist. As I tell people, I'm an egalitarian capitalist. I believe that there should be socialism built into it.
So much is given, much is required. So I believe that there's a responsibility with that. So none of this is about not working hard and not achieving financial success. It just means that the financial success shouldn't bury you. It shouldn't be such a burden that you lose who you are in the midst of that.
Listen, I got 30 seconds left, and we talked about something on the break that I want to make sure we talk about on the air, and that being you and I were mentioning how it's a revolutionary act that will drive people crazy when people ask you what you're doing, to be able to say nothing and feel good about
Nothing. Yeah. And they look at you crazy like, have you talked to somebody? Like, what are you doing? The face that they make. Like, and
is that one of the
doing.
principles? That one of the principles in the book?
Yeah, pursue peace and a positive mind and being able to really understand the value of recharging and downtime. Absolutely. Yes.
See, you speaking my language. With Dr. Sean, you talk about who's Dr. Sean in love with? Dr. Sean is in love with a nap.
Yeah. What I tell people all the time with the few seconds we got, I'm a superwoman, but I know how to take that cape off, wrap it around me, and take a nap.
I know that's right. Listen, I got to go. But I thank you for coming on, Sherry Riley. You are absolutely a gift to the culture. Thank you for this book.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and share. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. And thank you, MJ Harris, for coming on tonight. We absolutely loved you as well. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. It is absolutely my delight